where the Nassib border crossing between Jordan and Syria will officially reopen today after having been shut for almost about 3 years, though it will not be open for normal traffic immediately. Now, the Syrian government has retaken the area around the border crossing with Jordan at Nassib in July earlier this year during a week-long Russian-backed offensive to drive out rebels from the stronghold in southwest Syria. Now, the closure of Nassib Crossing in 2015 had cut off a very crucial transit route for hundreds of trucks a day transporting goods between Turkey and the Gulf. Now, this crossing, border crossing between Syria and Jordan, was something that was extremely crucial, not just for these two countries, but for the entire region. And this resulted in a gulf in a multi-billion-dollar trade. Now, since then, Syria's only normally operating frontier crossing has been with Lebanon, which itself has no other functioning land borders. The frontier with Turkey is still closed into Syrian government-held areas and open only into the territory that is controlled by the rebels. Meanwhile, the Syrian and the Iraqi foreign ministers are discussing to accelerate efforts to reopen the border between their nations as well. The Nassib border crossing plays a crucial role in the transit of goods amongst Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Turkey, and also the countries of the Persian Gulf. All right, now for more on this, we are joined in by our West Asia Bureau Chief, Daniel Pagani, who is joining us live from the Nassib-Jabar border crossing. Now, good morning to you, Daniel. This is a border crossing that is reopening almost after 3 years. What is the scene like out there?
Good morning to you and good morning to all our viewers. Yes, as you correctly pointed out, I'm currently standing in front of the Jabar border. This is how it is called on the Jordanian side, or the Nassib border. This is how it is called on the Syrian side. This is a fundamental event despite being a soft opening. Remember, the border is not opening entirely for civilians which either want to go back to their homeland or want to enter Jordan. It is open majorly for economic purposes, but this is a fundamental event. Why so? Jordan, for instance, has suffered a lot because of the Syrian crisis. Syrian goods could not enter the region anymore, and Jordanian businessmen and truck driver could not access Syria anymore. And Syria was the largest market for Jordanians. But it's not only about Jordan and Syria. The Jabar border crossing is the southern border crossing of Syria, which means that Syrian trucks and Syrian businessmen can get their goods through Jordan in order to reach the Gulf countries, which is, as you may know, a fundamental market for all the countries in the region. It is also a fundamental opening for Lebanon. Remember, the Lebanon only shares border with Israel, which is not a border, so to say, because the two countries are still formally at war and there is no relation between the two. So Lebanon would need to transit its goods through Syria and then through Jordan, again to access both the Jordanian and the Gulf countries. So this is a fundamental event, not only for Jordan, not only for Syria, but for the entire West Asia.
Absolutely, indeed, and it is a clear indicator about the normalcy that is now being restored in Syria, which has been war-torn for the last several years now. Now, my question, of course, to you here, Daniel, is, the Syrian government is, of course, making efforts to try and restore all of these areas where they can carry on trade as normal, but how, concretely will this be able to be held on? Because there is still fighting which is still going on in Syria in some regions.
Certainly, yes. The opening of one border crossing doesn't mean that the Syrian crisis is completely over, but it's definitely a very important sign of the fact that, at least when it comes to the southern governorates of Deraa and Quneitra, which are the southern provinces of Syria, the situation is normalizing and is deemed safe enough for Jordanian businessmen and Jordanian truck drivers and Syrian truck drivers and Lebanese truck drivers to cross this area. When it comes to the other borders, well, it'll take more time. The northern border with Turkey is still a little bit of a problem because Turkey is opening borders only in front of rebel-held areas, and this does not benefit the Syrian government in any manner because it means that no business whatsoever connected with the Syrian government can transit this area. There are currently talks between the Iraqi government and the Syrian government in order to open the eastern border, which means the Iraqi border, another fundamental border for Syrian goods to cross Iraq and to perhaps join Iran sooner or later. So it'll take still some time. The Syrian crisis is not over, but this is definitely an important sign of how things are slowly winding down and going back to normalcy.
All right, and also an important point that needs to be made here is about the Nassib border not being open for vehicular traffic. There are still caveats that have been placed there. Talk to us a bit about, how soon can we expect normal vehicular traffic to be restored there?
Before restoring entirely the border crossing also for civilians, there will be a buffer zone, so to say, a buffer time zone, in order to understand if it is truly safe for at least the truck drivers, with obviously security coordination, to travel through the southern part of Syria in order to reach, for instance, the Damascus market. After this buffer zone of time, this time buffer zone, it will be decided by the two governments if the coordination is strong enough to allow Syrians who are currently living as refugees in Jordan to go back, and also for Jordanian citizens who may want, for whatever reason, to travel to Syria, to Damascus, be it for holiday, be it for trade, be it for business, for whatever reason to travel. But it'll take some time. It's not going to happen in the round of days. I think at best we are talking about a month or 2 months, but there is no official time given as of now.
All right, we'll have to leave there. Thank you very much indeed, Daniel Pagani, for joining us and getting us all those updates from the Nassib border between Syria and Jordan. Yes, this of course is a fundamental and a crucial step for normalizing what's the situation in Syria.